Zoom. I know that quorum is going to be an issue later on.
Yeah, let's do that one. We'll just play it in the order that you want. Whichever's easiest for you, okay?
Okay, I want to resume quickly. Thank you for that. I know most councils have meetings during their lunch. It's not really a lunch for us. Just keep on working. That's what we do around here. Are we good to go? Okay. So, Councillor Fletcher has two new items that we need to add to the agenda. So we just haven't gonna ask staff to display that. Okay, so all those in favor of adding this item? Opposed, carried. Is the second item?
Yeah, one more. Just bring it
Okay. It will be in the very end, whatever that number that is. All those in favor of adding this item? Opposed, carried, okay?
And Mr. Chair, as I noted, this has to get done today, so it doesn't come, this item doesn't come.
Yeah, because it was just added, though, it needs some time to,
Then,
yeah.
but
Okay.
before we break, whatever
We'll
time that's.
do our best to get through this agenda, because some of these items
Yes,
need
but at some
need to
point,
get to
I will
council.
come and bug you if we need to just pass that. It's an added item.
Okay.
Okay.
We
Mr.
need to
Chair.
reopen item 16.24. This is Councilor Madlow's item. All those in favor of report opening 16.24. Opposed, carried. And I'm going to move to defer this item indefinitely. Do I need to display it? Okay, all those in favor of deferral? Opposed, carried. Let us try to move some of these items quickly. I know Councilor Fletcher had a few holds.
Got a
so
lot.
Mr. Chair, I have a matter to defer.
You
You
have,
have what?
To defer?
Yeah, I've got my name on for a whole bunch
sorry.
of deferrals and approvals.
one at a time, please. So let's get through Councilor Fletcher's items first.
We ready?
Almost. T 16.20, corridor safety review, Mortimer Avenue between Pape Avenue and Broadview Avenue.
There's motions that are attached here.
Item 20.
Yep, clerk has them. Here they are.
Yeah. You want to move them?
Yes, I'm moving.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
I can tell you what they are. 17, the deputy. Item 17, Chair, 16.17, the deputant has withdrawn from that,
1 second.
which is the,
Okay. Is your mic on, Councilor Fletcher?
oh, my mic is on.
Okay, T 16.17, refusal of sidewalk cafe permit application location at 224 and 226 Greenwood Avenue, Sanford Avenue flankage.
And I'm going to move to approve.
Okay, all those in favor? It's, all those in favor, opposed, carried.
Do you want me to keep going?
Yeah, which one's next?
16, TE.21,
Okay,
that is the bike lane cleaning, and the deputant has withdrawn, and I'm deferring that to the October 24th meeting.
okay, all those in favor of deferral?
YCC,
Opposed, carried.
another deferral. TE 16.7, 6, City Initiative Removal of Portland's Under Control Bylaw for 6 Leslie Street Decision Report. That's a deferral to October 24th.
Okay, deferred to next meeting. Opposed, carried.
2 more approvals. 16.41, which is the traffic signals Lakeshore Boulevard and East, part of the new Gardner configuration, and that's to install and approve the staff recommendation.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
And then there's 16.42, which is a left turn prohibition at 55 Danforth, and I'm going to approve the staff recommendation.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
And that's 6 items that have now been dispensed with on this
I
afternoon.
appreciate that. We might get home by 5 o'clock. Councilor Sacks.
E 16.16, I've spoken with the deputy and his lawyer for the applicant, and we've agreed to defer this until next month.
Defer to the next meeting of TOIC. See?
Motion?
A motion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Is that the only item? Okay. Okay. One moment. Is my staff in the room? I don't see my staff in the room. Okay. It's okay. Back to deputations of 16.5, 214, 230 Sherburne Street, official plan and zoning bylaw amendment. Next speaker here is Walid Kogali Ali, I believe. You have 5 minutes, go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. Just before getting to my prepared remarks, I just want to give a shout out to Erin Witherspoon and Megan Carver. Thank you so much for coming to depute and actually exercising your privilege to get everyone's attention. And for those folks who are watching on YouTube, I just want to let you folks know I've deputed at City Council on many occasions. And today I'm disappointed that there are barriers that have been put in place that limit the movement of our free press, that certain speakers felt intimidated. And I think it's important for us to realize that it seems that City Council is no longer the people's council, but is controlled by developers. And I know many of us have deputed today against this irresponsible development, but guess what? Our friends from Kingset are gonna get their way. And if you want to find out more, check out the lobbyist registry to see how many times they met with members of council. I also want to acknowledge the presence of my good friend Reed in the street, who's been highlighting important stories in the Sherbourne-Dundas corridor. So back to my formal remarks. So on behalf of Neighborhood Pods TO, we're calling on the City of Toronto to reject the proposal by Kingset Capital to build a 46-story condo at 214, 230 Sherbourne Street. Instead, we urge the city to take immediate and decisive action to acquire this property for the purpose of developing social housing. The current shelter system is overwhelmed, and many are left with no viable options for housing. People are dying on our streets, and it's unacceptable that the financial interests of development companies like Kingset Capital are allowed to take precedence over human life. Kingset Capital has previously acted in a way that hindered the city's ability to build much-needed social housing at this site. The city must not engage with a company that prioritizes profit over housing. The public good must be prioritized over corporate greed, and it's necessary that we call on the city to take steps to expropriate this property. Building a condominium on this site instead of social housing will only exacerbate the existing housing crisis in this community, in our community, and will force the displacement of vulnerable residents rather than providing the support and stability that is desperately needed. The City of Toronto has a unique opportunity here to take meaningful action in response to the severe housing and homelessness crisis affecting so many. We urge you, members of council, to listen to the residents of Toronto instead of developers with deep pockets and reject Kingset's proposal and direct city staff to move forward with acquiring 214 and 230 Sherborne for the purpose of creating social housing. Moreover, we challenge Kingset Capital's business model, which profits from the rezoning application process, unlocking the land's value for private development. It is imperative that the city rethink this model and incentivize the creation of social housing rather than rewarding for-profit developers like Kingset. Toronto's approach to development must shift towards prioritizing long-term community well-being and sustainability, not short-term corporate profits. In closing, I want to encourage members of council to just pay attention for a second. I know folks are on their phone. Please, just pay attention to me while I make this last remark.
Have 5 minutes.
Personal
Say your
privilege.
piece.
Point of personal
34
privilege.
seconds.
We are working.
So,
Toronto and East York Community Council to reject this harmful proposal and take every necessary action to ensure that 214, 230 Sherborne is used for social housing that will serve our community for the generations to come. Please visit the Dundas-Sherborne corridor. Visit that community. Pay attention to the important work that's been done by many organizations to better improve the lives of our neighbors. These are our family members. These are people that matter. Thank you.
to those who are waving, thank you for, following our instructions again.
I'm just going to ask a question to that, Deb.
Don't ask.
Oh, no.
Next question. Jonathan Joachim, are you here? You have 5 minutes.
All right, hello, I'm happy to be here. This is going to be my first deputation, so bear with me, but I'm happy to be here and I'm glad that I have this opportunity. But so far, I'm not that impressed. So I'm hoping that you guys will listen, and I hope that later on you'll be able to prove that you're listening. So we're going to be speaking about a vacant lot that's been vacant for a long time, and this concerns me for multiple reasons. The first point I'd like to mention that as a young person, I'm 23 years old, that a lot of young adults and a lot of the youth are very concerned about the housing crisis that is happening right now. This will impact us. If you allow for luxury condos to be placed instead of social housing, despite all the other concerns, you have basically told that the young people who want to have their own place and be an adult and have their own place where they can shelter, they have their own privacy and be a real adult instead of being stuck in their own parents' place, you have ruined their dreams if you approve this. I've met so many people and tourists, for example, who have come by and they've loved the city and they've wanted to stay, and then they've looked at the housing cost and they're like, yeah, it's just not possible. It's just not doable. And people that I've grown up with, they've loved the city. They've decided that they've had to move to other places, whether it be in Canada or in the States, just because of the housing expensive. So if you care about our youth, you're going to push for affordable housing and reject this proposal that's going to lead to gentrification and not give affordable housing like many of my peers before me have asked for. The second point I'd like to make is that you also have to recognize the history around the community and just the people that are there. They don't need a luxury condo built there. If you walk by there like I did yesterday, you will see lots of people who need help. And as I walked past by there yesterday, there was 3 ambulances I saw in the span of within like 5 minutes. And you will see a hard-pressed community who needs help, who needs affordable housing instead of being kicked out, which will happen if this luxury condo is built. They deserve the dignity and the rights owed to them as people to a safe place for them to stay, not a luxury condo looming over them, and then the start of the gentrification within their community. Another thing too is I'd like to reiterate that it is your jobs to listen to the people who have deputed today and listen to our calls. It has been overwhelmingly negative about the approval of this. So if you are listening, it is time for you to prove yourselves and reject this proposal. So all in all, it's painstakingly, obviously clear with all the deputations that have happened today. If you care about our youth, if you want the Torontonians who are proud of this city, it's time to make them proud by actually pushing for affordable housing so that way they can stay here and actually have basic empathy for the community at Dundas and Sherbourne that want to stay there and need help. It is pretty obvious to me. So it's time to see if we're listening, and we will be watching, and we will be here. Thank you, that's all.
I just want to ask that deputant if he's aware of one thing. That's all. Thank you.
Jonathan, Council Fletcher has a question for you.
Sure. Hello.
Are you aware of the Dundas Sherbourne Master Plan RFP that's just been sent out looking for community supports, nonprofit housing? Have you been able to be part of thinking about that, which is closed now? So
No, I'm not, but I've been
not
very
aware.
involved.
Just asking if you're aware of that plan for people in the neighborhood who you're speaking about, for community support, for nonprofit housing, move people into affordable housing. So you didn't hear about that until now?
No, I'm not, but
Okay,
I
that's
do
fine. My only
think that a
question.
luxury condo.
No,
being
it's not
built there
about that.
would
It's asking
result in
you
harm
if
there.
you've heard about that plan, and your answer I'm hearing is you haven't, right? That's it.
Sure, but
Thank
luxury
you.
condo being built there would
Done.
also harm the
Thank you.
community there.
Thank you.
Just to
One
be
little
clear.
question. I hear your deputation. I just want to hear what you know. That's all. Thank you. Guys, stop.
George Gamo, are you here?
Settle down, please. We're going to find out
George?
more about
Okay.
that.
Jeff Hayworth, are you here? You have 5 minutes.
Hi, councilors. I just wanted to speak today a little bit about the supply side argument, which forms the basis for building a bunch of condos during a housing crisis. The argument is rent is too high, people can't afford it, right? So we have to increase the supply of housing. Doesn't matter what kind of housing, we just have to increase the supply, and then eventually it'll filter down to the people who need it. That's the general argument. This filtering process, trickle-down housing, which has never shown to work, is premised on this filtering kind of idea, right? Except that filtering can take a generation to go through entirely, so if you're gonna force it through to make a quick buck, it's more of a violent act. The only other thing I wanted to point out, because I know it's been a long day and we wanna vote, is that increasing the supply the way it's happening is not actually going to decrease rent. By investing more into the housing market, you're actually raising the rent because we need to pay more to pay back those investments. So this development is not increasing the housing supply. It is not decreasing rent. It is only providing for the profits in this one particular area. And as you have heard from other people before, there are a lot of alternatives and much needed solutions besides this. That's all I have to say on that matter, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any questions of the deputant? Seeing none.
Thank you.
Do we still have quorum? Yes, we do. Okay. Fatin Ishraq, are you here? Okay. You have 5 minutes.
Should I begin? Okay. Dear Mayor Olivia Chow and members of the Toronto and East York Community Council, my name is Fatih Nishraq, and I'm here today as a Parkdale tenant concerned about the impact of this inequitable development proposal at 214-230 Sherbourne Street. I'm alarmed because this developer has also proposed a 21-story luxury condo with 0 affordable housing units in South Parkdale. Thanks to all of you, that proposal was rejected. At a time when we need to move towards building deeply but more precisely rent-geared-to-income affordable housing, we're facing our neighborhoods being transformed with little say in what is being built and for who. This past Sunday, I was at a community barbecue held in Parkdale where over 150 community members gathered to demand affordable housing and equitable development from KingSett Capital, which is the development proposal at King and Cowan. Community members came to the mic and their concerns were simple. They don't want to be displaced and they want to be safely housed. The event titled Eat Kingset and Hot Dogs echoes the concerns of our neighbors at Sherborne and Dundas. We need more affordable housing, and we want our communities to thrive, which is what all of you here wish for. I demand you to engage with us and develop these projects with us and fight with us. Something has to change, and I hope you will hear the voices who are and have been loud. I wish you were able to be with us this past Sunday. The Milky Way Garden, where the barbecue was hosted, was full of community, good music, good vibes, and the sun was full. We even had potato salad. I felt for a brief moment the power that is possible when we can come together and show up for each other. Sadly, the stories we heard were alarming. Soaring rents, evicted tenants, a tenant who's also a community gardener there and is in a unit for 29 years and has spent her whole life there, is now fearful of renoviction tactics that may come up by her private landlord. Unhoused community members living and moving through Parkdale still don't have a pathway to access safe housing. It doesn't have to be this way. It is also important to note that this Milky Way Garden is a community-owned land that's managed by the Parkdale Neighborhood Land Trust. And this has been possible only due to a donation by private owners. We need more models of inclusive economic development where the city facilitates our communities to be actively engaged throughout the development process and build more affordable housing, including social housing. We need more city-owned land where we can build a Toronto for all. Today, I stand with my neighbors fighting for social housing at 214 230 Sherborne, and I hope you will vote with your heart and mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the Red Deputant? Seeing none. Are there any other persons in the room would like to depute? Okay, coming up. Can you also register with the clerk after you speak?
Yes, I did yesterday, but if it's not, I'll do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
What's your name and before
My
you
name is Maurice Adongo.
Okay,
I am a community health worker. I work in housing at Street Health, which is Dundas and Sherborne. I work in housing. I deal with people who have mental health issues and stuff like that. So I'm going to try to be quick. Number one is we went to meet with KidSet top guys one time. And we told them we have been trying to get housing here for 16 years. They asked us, why do you think the city has not built it for 16 years? Basically, they were laughing at the city and at the homeless. They are telling us they have not built it because they don't want to build it. Which part of that don't you understand? That's good. Now, the problem I have is that I live in this area. I work there. And to go there, in exactly the place where there are homeless people sitting there, and say that's where you want to build a condo is an insult, even to your own conscience. It's like you are removing people, say, you go and die over there, please. And you go and die over there, please. We need to build something here. That's really bad. The second thing is that a client of mine told me a week ago, he's tired. And I told him, dude, you're sick. You have broken legs. And you can hardly breathe. If you go to the streets and you live in the street because I can't get a shelter, you will be dead. He told me, can that happen quickly, please? It shocked me because I know him well. I know his sister who lives in Calgary. His sister came here when he was in a coma at St. Mike's after he was hit by a car. And the sister said, I've got to take him. I got a sense that if this client of mine came to any of these councillors who want to pass this thing and give it to KidSet and told them, I'm going to die in the street, they will tell that guy, please do it and hurry up. And maybe KidSet can help you guys build a burial ground somewhere. If you offer them that, they will do it quick. They will run because they want to get rid of all those people. So let me tell you what you are failing to do. You said there's no money. There is money. That's why you're paying the police. But not only that, the federals are desperate for housing. They are in real trouble, and the election is coming. If this city council came up with a plan to build houses among the really seriously homeless people, and you went to the federal with a plan, not just how to buy the plot, but to build, and you make it public so that the people of the city know that you are, because Trudeau and all those guys talk about housing, 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 but because you don't come with a plan, it's nonsense. If you went there with a plan and say, we are putting this much money, can you put something? And you make it public so the people of this city know. The politicians will know there is a cost to ignoring this kind of thing. So you go to the feds, the province announced they're building some houses, they put a big figure of money, but there's not a single place where they're building them because, oh, we don't have a place. You have. So what's the problem? So my suggestion is that this has to be stopped. And what you are doing, like I said, you are killing our people. And that's a crime against humanity. It's on you. I went to Kenya, where I come from, and I told them, oh, I work in a homeless shelter. And they were laughing. They told me, are you kidding me? There are homeless people in Canada? I say, yes. In Toronto, yes. The biggest city in Canada, there are homeless people. And they tell me, I'm in Nairobi, they tell me, there are no homeless people here. We don't have money. And even those who don't have any means, they build what is called a slum. It's just a bunch of boxes and this, and maybe they put something on the floor. I bet if the homeless people in this city told the city council, please build slums for us, just some dirty little thing. You know what you tell them? We don't have the money, and
Sorry,
you are not
your
important.
time is up, sorry. Okay.
So the way you are treating homeless people, as I told you, is a crime against humanity. You are responsible.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the deputy? Seeing none. Okay, and that's the end of our list. All righty. We'll take it in-house. Any questions of staff? I know Councilor Fletcher had questions.
Oh, one more deputant.
Sure. I did ask if there was anybody else. It's okay, come on up.
I'll make it quick, I just want to make a couple of points.
And your name for the clerks, please.
Reed Wyman. I just wrote down a couple of points. Is everyone aware how long the housing waiting lists are? And how many people have been waiting years and years? Do we agree that there's a housing crisis in this city? Do we notice that people are not proud to be from Toronto anymore and people want to leave? Do we only care about money and not the people of our city or the culture of our city? Do we not have enough condos in our city already? What about the traffic in our city? What's going to happen with this condo on Sherbourne? The people are going to step over homeless people leaving the condo building? How's that going to work? Do you guys realize in that exact community, all the parks are filled with tents? You guys know that? So how's that going to work? I think soon enough, we may as well change the name of our city. You know, we're changing the name of Dundas Square, all this stuff. We may as well change the name of our city. You know, if we don't care about the people here and we only care about money. So yeah, after all that being said, I don't know, make it make sense. I don't see how it makes sense. We don't need more condos. People over profit, guys. Save our city. Thank you.
All right, Councilor Fletcher.
Yeah, I'm just going to ask, I've just got and why I wanted to know from Deputy if they've heard of the Dundas Sherburne Master Plan, and is because 2019, that was a motion that was passed by City Council. It was actually original Toronto Community Housing Study on revite and renewal options for Dan Harrison, which included a number of properties around the Dan Harrison site. I just want to have that confirmed by whoever is, that's the original TCHC, and maybe that, it's going to be hard because now we have so many divisions that are on this, Mr. Chair. Like, there's CREM, there's CREATE, there's Planning, there's TCH, there's Housing Secretary. So is somebody on there? Can you just hold that while somebody figures out who's going to answer that?
Noah's going to answer.
This was a notice of motion from Councillor Wong Tam, seconded by then Councillor Anna Bailau, to undertake the review of the Dan Harrison Community Complex, a renewal comprehensive strategy, address the longstanding complex challenges, 5-year Downtown East Action Plan. And that was the date of which was, doesn't have dates on these, but it was 2019. Is that correct?
That is correct. And then a report specifically on Dan Harrison was commissioned.
Can you speak up, Noah? We're having
Sure, I apologize. And then council approved TCHC to move forward with a report specifically on TCHC on the Dan Harrison complex in March of 2021.
So then March 2021, TCHC is approved to move forward. And then May 2022, there was a direction to do the Dundas Sherburne Neighborhood Revitalization Update, correct?
Correct. Based on the findings of that report, it was a request to widen and look at the area and opportunities for affordable housing and supports, with Dan Harrison as problem solving as the focus of that. And that's the RFP you mentioned before to the deputant that's just closed and the work that's about to get underway.
And there were 4 sites that were asked to additional real estate opportunities: 297 Jarvis, 236 Sherburne, 387 Sherburne, 110 Maitland, correct?
Correct, and additional sites have been added to look at. Between 8 to 12 sites are identified in the RFP to look at, and those are public sites or not-for-profit or possible partnership.
But these sites here, any of them belong to the city?
Yes, 405 Sherbourne belongs to the city.
No, on this list I just read. 297 Jarvis, 236 Sherburne, 387 Sherburne, 110 Maitland. Vacant apartment, strip mall, surface parking, Inglewood Arms rooming house.
I'm not sure, I'll have to report back after this to the exact.
I'm sure there'll be some reports to council on this, asking Create Till if those are any of the properties that you were directed to look at.
Sorry, Councillor, can you please repeat your question?
297 Jarvis, 236 Sherburne, 387 Sherburne, 110 Maitland that were in this report. Those are the properties that it was to look at additional real estate opportunities. For these definitely, but not including that.
We didn't look at those.
Sorry,
We didn't look at those properties. Create, you looked at only the 214, 230.
You didn't look at those?
We didn't.
Didn't look at those, okay. And did TCHC, okay, so this is a very complex file, and this Sherburne Master Plan is being undertaken by the Housing Secretariat, is that right?
That is correct.
Now, all of this,
in partnership with city agencies.
I'm reading here in May 11th, 2022, there was to be a community visioning that was associated with the master plan and the development of the master plan. Did that take place, and how did it take place?
There was quite a bit of engagement that's taken place in this area as part of the broader Downtown East study. And this RFP also includes a community engagement piece around this and a coordination of that existing engagement that's occurred before.
So we've undertaken the RFP in order to get people together, but as I'm reading this, the community visioning and master planning exercise were side by side, and you're to report back to the Planning and Housing Committee fourth quarter 2023 with the results of the visioning and master plan exercise. Was there a report back?
Not that I know of. Not, this work is just about to get underway.
However, you're saying that the master plan will guide the visioning. I don't read the motion like that, so perhaps later we can understand what that process was to look like. I think the visioning was to help with your RFP, not after.
Yes.
Is that not correct?
Perhaps someone at planning can speak to the Downtown East Broader study, which has reported back.
This
And
is
it's a
very much
foundation
Dan
for this.
Harrison, right here. Dan Harrison Community Complex and improvements to the Dundas-Sherburne neighborhood. So we've missed a few things, correct? As far as I'm reading it. But I think we'll have more discussion at this, teasing out exactly what's happened when we get to council or before that, Councillor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Fletcher. Any further questions, anybody? Okay, I have a few questions for staff. So in plain language, if Creatio is to recommend acquiring the site for any social or affordable housing, would rezoning be an important step? And how would getting zoning in place help Creatio? In plain language, please.
Through the chair, yes, it would be an important step because it provides certainty by crystallizing the density, the GFA, which in turn defines the value.
Okay, that was very direct. Again, in plain language, given this positive staff report before us today, if City Council rejects this application and it is appealed to the OLT, what likely happens? This is for our legal staff.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Chairman, if the matter is appealed to the OLT would look at this strictly through the lens of what does or does not constitute good planning, looking at both the city's official plan and the planning rationale for the approval of the proposal.
Okay. For me, that's very clear. I heard you loud and clear. So I hope everyone else in the room heard that as well from our legal staff and from Creatio. You want to repeat that?
Certainly, and I'll just lean forward through you, Mr. Chairman. Should this matter be appealed to the OLT, the matter would be similar to any other OLT appeal, so the tribunal would be required by its enabling statute to look at this application through the lens of what does or does not constitute good planning, using both provincial planning documents, the city's official plan, and the city's planning rationale. That's in the report before you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on this item? Go ahead, Councillor.
Just, I think that I want to understand if there's an opportunity to get more information around the questions raised, asked by Councillor Fletcher on related to the acquisition and where that fits into a vision for this area with the properties named. This obviously predates the current councillor. And I think we, for my sake, I'd like to understand better some of the pieces here and how they fit together and in relation to what is before us. Seems to be some reconstruction of how we got here that I would think would be helpful.
Can staff respond?
Sorry.
When did that get reported out?
Mm-hmm. Okay, if I can, while you think about it, I guess I'm specifically on, there was one of the recommendations adopted was that City Council request corporate real estate management to immediately resubmit their letter of intent with the same terms and to restart negotiation to purchase 2014 to 2030 Sherburne Street, in the event the previous agreement conditions are not waived. And I guess I'm not understanding when that was reported or how that came to us.
It's a creatio question.
Through the chair, Councillor, I'll have to go back and look into, this report. We did work with CREM on the analysis of acquiring the site after council direction. And back in 2022, we did bid on this property through CREM, which we lost. KingSett overbid us. And since then, we have been looking at acquiring the site again, and we have been in discussions with KingSett. But a decision was made because of the complexity of the site that we should wait until rezoning is in place.
So I didn't hear the last thing you said. Should wait. Didn't hear the last sentence.
Because of the complexity of the site, a decision was made to wait until rezoning is in place for us to have a certainty how much of GFA and density will be approved.
So I'm sorry, you wanted to wait for the zoning changes to reinitiate negotiation?
That would have been a condition.
Or to buy it?
To buy it.
To buy it, okay.
Yes.
To negotiate purchase?
That's right.
Where was that decision made?
That was at staff level.
Okay, so we're going to need, I think, some more information because it's the clarity of like which staff in terms of guided by what policy direction. I think these are questions that need to be answered in the light of what we're hearing today and in the light that we have a new councillor who's inheriting these projects. Would we have an opportunity to get that information before this, for example, before council?
Certainly. Happy to provide that.
Thank you.
Speakers? Okay, I can speak to this. So I did have a motion. Again, yeah, put the motion. Yeah, that one. I actually had an original motion. I've been working on this file since I became a councillor 2 years ago. And I want what the community wants. I have had conversations with KingSett in trying to get the property purchased by the city. And so our legal team, CREM TO, has been talking to KingSett. Yes, there has been bumps in the road. And the last question Councillor Bravo asked staff was that if the land is rezoned, it would give the city an opportunity to continue conversation and perhaps, hopefully, purchase it. And I would read the motion that I have here. The motion that I'm not going to submit, because based on what I heard from the community, they would prefer that we not proceed in that way in regards to rezoning. So my initial motion reads that TUICC adopt the recommendation in the September 9th, 2024 report, and that City Council requests that the Exec Director, CREM, consult with the Housing Secretariat and create TO to continue discussions with the owners of 2014-230 Sherburne Street to find solutions that ensures an affordable housing component is included in the development, which could include acquiring the site should funding become available and subject to council approval. But because of all the deputations we've had today, I'm just going to ask that this goes to council without those recommendations. We want to listen to what you have to say. I'm taking to heart what you've said, and based on the feedback we have received, that's my recommendation for today. The item goes forward to council without recommendation. All those in favor? Opposed? Sorry, go ahead.
I'm going to speak because having now, and I thank you for that, Councillor Moyes, because I think that's the wisest thing to do. It's right in front of us. I've gone back and looked at this site. And as I said, 2019, and we're going to have this information for council. I'm flagging that. Toronto Community Housing brought forward a plan to revitalize and look at all the housing around Dan Harrison, and what to do, what do we need to do to revitalize that, make sure everybody's a place to live, it looks great, everything. That, then in 2021, there was another report about that here at the city. In 2022, there was a very clear report that said, have a visioning exercise, do all these things, look at these particular properties. That was in May, so I don't know if that died on the vine with the new council at 2022. The Dan Harrison piece, I want to be clear, is its own recommendation. It does not fit under Downtown East. It's number 1 recommendation. Number 2 recommendation is Downtown East and all the things that have to happen. So I'm not sure if the visioning study needed to happen in order to create the RFP, or there should have been public input into the RFP rather than have an RFP to do the visioning. I happen to think it's number 1. I don't think that's good practice. But what I'm looking at in 2024 is a planning report that, I don't believe it, and I'm sorry to planning staff if I'm incorrect, that does not tell the story of this property having been a place that we were thinking would be part of the larger master plan. I don't see that. And I think that's having Create TO, City Planning, Housing Secretariat, CREM, you just add all these folks, and there's nobody who's got this, and TCH at their heart, that is moving this along in the way that it was to be moved along to start with. And now we say there's 8 or 12 other properties. Well, I think at council, we're going to want to know an awful lot more about that. We're going to want to know an awful lot more about this property since it was initiated in 2019, and now we're in 2024. So I apologize to planning staff if somewhere in here, you've referenced all of the pieces of this, and if you haven't, then for me, it goes back to our silos, all of the silos that we have that are looking after housing. And I'm glad that our mayor is laser focused on this kind of thing, bringing everybody together, driving it to make it go forward. So that's actually why I wanted to know if everybody knew about the master plan, because that was supposed to be that conversation, and it's in all of these documents. And I think that's why people were so surprised coming today that this is kind of off the shelf when all of these motions were passed through City Council previously. So I appreciate Councillor Moyes' approach here to gather this information up. Thank you for coming and reminding us about 2019, 2021, 2022, and here we are in 2024. And we have to see where we sit now, I'm just going to say legally, because, and then what this goes forward as, what does that look like as a visioning exercise? That's the Housing Secretariat. I'm sure the councillor and our chair, who's not here, of Planning and Housing will be very clear on all those kinds of things. There's big light shining on this corner right at the moment, and I think that's a good thing. Thank you, Councillor Moyes.
Thank you, Councillor Fletcher. Okay, so the item forward to council with that recommendation. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Next item
You
is...
have a recorded vote on that one.
You want a recorded vote?
Yep.
Okay.
All those in favor of Councillor Moyes' motion to send it forward to City Council without recommendation? Councillor Moyes, Deputy Mayor Malik, Councillor Bravo, Councillor Fletcher, and Councillor Sachs. That carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. Where are we at? TE 16.6, 566, 576 Sherburne Street, and 229 to 37 Linden Street, official plan and zoning bylaw amendment, a rental housing demolition application. We do have speakers on this item. Sean McGaffey, are you here? Okay, 5 minutes, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Really here today just to support the staff recommendations for this project. and thank them for their hard work in getting this one through the process. What's before you today is an official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment, rental housing demolition and replacement on site, as well as TE item 16.14, which is the heritage easement agreement that will be entered into for the heritage preservation. There is also another registered speaker, Mr. Matt McCharles. He has indicated he does not need to speak, though can be available if absolutely necessary. But in the interest of time and schedule, I think I'll just leave it there, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about the proposal.
Thank you. Any questions of the deputants? Seeing none. We do have Matt McCarles.
Sir.
He's not coming? Okay, great. Okay, thank you. Anybody else want to speak on this item? Seeing none, thank you. 16.6. I do have a motion on this item, I believe. No. 16.5. I have a motion on this item, right? No? 16. I'm going to move staff's recommendations, Rex, on this item. I think my list is a little off. We've lost quorum, so we'll have to wait a minute or two.
Otherwise, the motion, yeah.
Councilor Fletcher, we're waiting for you for a quorum. We don't have quorum. Okay. Okay, all those in favor of 16.6? Opposed, carried. Okay. Next item is T 16.8. Councilor Malik, 16.8. To Tecumseh Street and 125 to 133 Niagara Street, amending Section 37 agreement.
Thank you very much. I move the staff recommendation.
Okay, anybody want to speak on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor, opposed, carried. T 16.9, 86 to 108 Lombard Street and 103 Richmond Street East zoning bylaw amendment application. Any speakers on this item? Seeing none. 16.9. I'm going to move staff's recommendation on this item. All those in favor, opposed, carried. T 16.10, 41 to 45 Spadina Road, alterations. To attributes of designated heritage property under Section 33 of the Ontario Heritage Act and authority to enter into heritage easement agreement. There's a speaker on this item. Charlotte Mickey, are you here?
Well, we'll just hold that then. Okay, too bad.
Okay, okay, so Andrew can go first.
Chair, I'm going to make a suggestion to you that you have a whole bunch of new business items that may get lost in quorum problems, so that everybody should know that's here to speak, that unless the sky's going to fall, that we might not
Okay.
hear your item, and I'd like to make sure they get cleared. We have an unbelievable number of new ones.
Yeah, I know.
Should go pretty quickly.
Andrew, go ahead. You have 5 minutes.
I'm really only here to say that about the application was just approved earlier today, and this is the heritage component. It went to Heritage Pres Board and approved, so I'm happy to answer any questions. And I know Charlotte had a few words. She's one of the residents in the building, and I think she just wanted to address committee.
I have a question.
Sure.
So there was some comments by the Preservation Board asking for some additional work to do precondition assessments of the building.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're all anxious that the building be preserved and not damaged in the process of construction. Are you prepared to give a commitment to do the work that the Preservation Board has requested?
Yes.
Can you confirm that in writing to us before council, please?
Yep, I'll speak with my client about that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is Charlotte back? Okay, Charlotte,
Sorry about that, everybody.
it's okay. You have 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Yep, it's Charlotte McKee from the SGTA again, and thank you for letting me speak again.
I know.
It's a bit hard to go up, I guess, after Sherburne with those great social justice issues at stake, but I still think there's a place for history. I think there's a place for beauty, and I think there's a place for places that are truly humanely designed and even, I suppose, fits with that theme. So in principle, the Spadina Gardens Tenants Association supports this heritage easement because it retains the entire building, including the historic interiors, a wonderful outcome. However, we have several concerns. We note that the recommended easement compromises several heritage attributes as listed in the intention to designate. Of particular concern to tenants is the erosion of the provision of light by the spacious courtyard and side yard. In fact, it's not just the provision of light, the shape of the building itself is being eroded. These were intentional design features from the Edwardian architect, and I'm sorry to bore you with this, but here's the full wording so that you know I'm not fudging it from the designation. The scale, form, and massing of the four-story building on a raised basement with a flat roof, as it is planned, is a pair of contiguous T shapes, with the top of the T's having a formal face to Spadina Road and this is the important part, the legs of the T's having sufficient space on either side to allow generous provision of daylight to the rooms facing the rear of the property. The proposed placement of the columns in the new build, in the courtyard and the side yard, will diminish the functionality of the apartments, potentially interfering with ventilation and definitely obscuring or eliminating light to most windows in a majority of above-grade apartments. We believe that the long-standing continuing functionality of Spadina Gardens as a residential rental building is central to its historic importance in the spirit of the designation and should continue to be supported by heritage planning. In that spirit of support, the Toronto Preservation Board recommended exploring an alternative exterior placement of the columns in the courtyard and side yard. The SGTA strongly supports this recommendation. Also, we request more information on the mitigation through reflective cladding, which was actually proposed by the applicant as something given to us in their heritage impact statement. Do the heritage planning staff have a view on that mitigation? Will they be asking for studies to see if the reflective cladding will help? Additionally, we are concerned by the current condition of the heritage building, including but not limited to the roof, the wooden framed windows, the balconies, the masonry, also the nature and current state of the foundation, particularly at the rear of the building, the effect of vibration and other construction stress on the heritage building, especially the foundation and the areas in need of repair. We believe that these additional concerns could be answered via a second engineering report, preferably commissioned by the city rather than by the applicant, including as recommended by the Toronto Preservation Board, a vibration impact study and construction impact study to determine a baseline of safety and to ensure appropriate mitigation measures are taken prior to construction. Conservation measures taken by the applicant in advance of construction, in particular the repair of the roof, wooden framed windows, with other details to be determined. We understand the concerns covered immediately above would likely be included in the conservation plan created by professional heritage architects and presented to the senior manager of heritage planning. Doubt was expressed by a member of the heritage planning staff on whether such a strategy could be shared with the tenants. So we are asking the TEYCC today to consider directing staff to share the conservation plan, and/or form a working group with tenants to assist in the preparation of such strategy. We understand that this is not a typical process, but given that the tenant's safety is also a concern during the building's conservation, we hope the TEYCC will find such a direction appropriate. Additionally, as touched on earlier, the Toronto Preservation Board made amendments to the staff report recommendations, which the SGTA strongly supports. We hope the TEYCC will take those recommendations into consideration with their decision today. Finally, the SGTA tenants advocated for the designation of the building, not to secure their tenures, but at the risk of their tenures. It was a very scary process for us, but we believed in the building passionately and continue to do so. We hope that you value our engagement in heritage and will work with us going forward. And I would just like to say one more thing. The issue with the ventilation and light at the back, it's true. You know, once we lose that, it will erode our ability to enjoy our apartments. But I mean, how long am I going to be around for? It's not about me. It's not about the current tenants
Okay, 5 seconds,
necessarily. It's
please.
about the building going forward and for future generations.
Thank you. Any questions for deputants? Seeing none, thank you. So, Councilor Sachs?
Questions for staff. Heritage staff is there, I believe. First of all, is there any reason why the Heritage Conservation Plan can't be shared with the tenants as they've requested?
I have checked. We can share the conservation plan when it is submitted.
You can and you will. I just want to hear you clearly. You can and you will.
We can and we will.
Great, thank you. Generally, how will you be working with the tenants going forward to make sure that their voice is heard and that their concerns are heard?
With regard to, this is not working. Oh, there we go. Yes, we will work with the tenants as much as possible. This is a public process.
Okay. Now, one of the points that the tenants have raised consistently is that this building was intentionally, deliberately designed to maximize natural light and ventilation, which is why most of these units don't have air conditioning. That was identified as among the factors for the original designation of the building. Why are you approving this, or why are you recommending approval of the putting a building on top, which is going to significantly reduce sunlight on the building below, and I'm not sure what in terms of ventilation?
Notwithstanding the attributes as listed in the designation report, the Ontario Heritage Act provides authority with the ability to review physical modifications to the designated heritage building. However, we do not have the authority to review residential user impacts. Though we are empathetic towards that, we do not have the ability to review light and air issues to tenants in the building.
Okay, so what you're saying is we don't have authority to turn down this permit, even though we know the daylight for the tenants below will be significantly reduced?
Not based on that issue, correct.
Okay. Okay, sorry.
Sorry, can't interrupt.
All right. And in terms of the recommendation that came from the Heritage Preservation Board, how are you taking those into account as you move forward on this site?
Confirm that we will review those reports with due diligence.
Okay, well, reviewing them is one thing, but how do you incorporate their advice into your decisions going forward?
I will have to confer with management with regard to those reports. Those reports were not typical, the vibration report, et cetera.
Okay, so before we get to council, you're going to get back to me with details as to how those concerns are going to be addressed, yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. You want to move this item, Councilor Sachs?
Yes, I'll move the staff recommendations with the commitment that I'm going to get further information before council.
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Next item is TE 1611, 111 and 115 Berkeley Street alterations to heritage properties and authority to enter into heritage easement agreement. Any speakers on the item? Seeing none, I'm going to move staff's recommendations. Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. T 16.12, 296 to 300 King Street East and 56 to 60 Berkeley Street. Alterations, demolition, and erection of building on properties designated under Part 5 of the Ontario Heritage Act and the authority to enter into heritage easement agreement. Any speakers in the room on this item? Seeing none, I'm going to move staff's recommendations. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. T 16.14, I know I missed one. 570, 572, 574, 576 Sherburne Street and 37 Linden Street, alterations to the demolition of attributes on designated properties on 29 Linden Street, removal of building under section 33 and 34 of the Ontario Heritage Act and the authority to enter into heritage easement agreement. Any speakers in the room on this item? Seeing none. 14. I'm going to move staff's recommendation on this item. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. We'll move to new business. Councilor Fletcher. Either way, we're all going to be here till the very end. We're all going to be here till the very end. Because we are at quorum 245. T 16.64, passenger loading zone on the south side of Bloor Street West between Colburn Lodge Drive and Pacific Avenue. Councilor Perks is not here. I'm going to move that on his. Okay, I'm going to move his recs in his letter. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Do you need to post it?
No, this one.
Okay. T 16.65, speed hump installation, Castle Frank Road between Dale Avenue and Hawthorne Avenue. Councilor Sachs?
With the staff recommendations?
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. T 16.66, parking amendments, Dover Court Road. Councilor Bravo?
I'd like to move the recommendations in my letter.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. T 16.67, install traffic control personnel at the intersection of Young Street and Heath Street West. Councilor Matlow, what, who has his stuff? I have it?
Nobody. You have it? The chair has it?
67. Can I have your sheet?
That's these are his letters.
Okay, to approve. All those in favor of approval? Opposed? Carried.
It's his letter, so I presume he wants it.
Yeah. T 16.68, proposal, traffic bylaw changes in Forest Hill Village. Councilor Matlow, 68.
Move that.
Move staff recommendations. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
We're still waiting on
They're
amendments
his
for
recommendations,
this, so we're
16.
not able to, but everything else we're okay to move. And
So I'm holding 69, 70.
yes, everything else we can just follow the sheet, but we're still waiting on. And if it
Okay. T 16.70, Westover Hill Road, turn restrictions. I'm gonna approve staff recommendations. All those in favor? The council's recommendations. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. His letters. T 16.71, parking amendments, Brand Street. Deputy Mayor Malik? 71. The last three are yours.
Yes, I'd like to move the recommendations in my letter.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. T 16.72, parking amendments, Mercer Street. Deputy Mayor Malik?
I'd like to move the recommendations in my letter, please.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. T 16.73, parking amendments, Western Battery Road. Deputy Mayor Malik?
Thank you. I'd like to move the recommendations in my letter, please.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And those are the new items.
Yes, we have a couple more from Councilor Fletcher from 74.
Okay, 16.74, Mortimer speed limit reduction.
Move the recommendation.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. T 16.75.
Move the recommendations in the letter for more time.
Okay, move council direction. Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right, wonderful. Okay, back to the.
What about 69?
Yes, sir. 69, we're holding that for Councillor Matlow. They're still working on something here. So the next item that we need to go back to is T 16.13, and this is the heritage aspect of 214, 230 Sherburne Street, alterations to heritage properties designated under Part 5 of the Ontario Heritage Act and authority to enter into heritage easement agreement. We have speakers on this item. They may have left already, but let's see. Cynthia McDougall, are you here? Maurice Adongo, are you here? Okay, so any other speakers on this item? Seeing none? Okay. I will move staff recommendations on this item.
Without Rex. I already asked. Move without Rex, they could just put this on. Move without Rex to City Council.
Okay, I'm going to move this item without recommendation to City Council. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Sorry.
This number, move yours so she doesn't have 28.
T 16.15, 307 Rushton Road, Front Yard Park Appeal. That's Councilor Matlow's item. What is his staff here? Sorry, I have it. Approve staff's recommendations. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item 15.
There's speakers on that item.
There's speakers on the item, sorry.
So move to the next cleared one.
1 second, I already, this
8
one's.
minutes till I'm leaving.
Michelle Sanborn, are you here? Online, okay.
Good afternoon, can you hear me?
If we can, go ahead.
Yes, good afternoon, thank you, Chair. My name is Michelle Sanborn, and I have resided at 305 Washington Road for over 10 years. 307 Rushton Road is next door, and we share a mutual drive and easement. I appreciate being able to address the committee today. The decision here today has a significant impact on our property, given the challenges we have experienced over the years. I want to cover our concerns. 1, street parking. These are issues that were raised in the appeal from the residents of 307 Rushton Road. There is sufficient street parking on Rushton Road. Over many weeks, we noted ample parking at various times of the day, overnight, and on all days of the week. In fact, when parking on the street, the residents of 307 Rushton are normally in front of their house and adjacent to the property. The appeal document lists businesses on St. Clair West which generate parking on the street. This is a fact in all Toronto neighborhoods. Would this mean that residents living in the Beaches, Bloor West, Queen, or the Danforth should also be given front pad parking by default? The City of Toronto installed several years ago MP parking located precisely at Rushton Road and St. Clair West, which is used by the clients of these businesses. 2, front pad parking. The residents have existing rear parking accessible through the mutual drive at the rear of the property. It was their decision to convert this parking, construct an 8-foot fence over the legal easement, which also restricts our use of the parking. We have repeatedly asked that this fence be removed to allow for parking, which they have repeatedly refused to do. It's untenable that the city would permit front yard parking while 2 existing parking spaces are being reduced due to this action. People all over Toronto use mutual drive with rear parking, and this is in keeping with the neighborhood. In fact, the property directly across the street has no front yard parking and has a mutual drive. 3, accessibility. The residents and their guests use their back door as the primary entrance. It is therefore accessible and convenient to simply use the existing parking and enter from there. 4, polling. The results of the poll could not be clearer. When we spoke to neighbors, many stated their household would vote. There were 23 houses polled with 28 negative responses. The overall response was 51%, with almost 90% voting no. This is very clear, and the voice of citizens should be respected. In the 2022 municipal election, I note that only 34% of voters voted in my ward, and yet we do not diminish the legitimacy of those results. In conclusion, the parking habits of the 3 to 7 residents has been to park 2 and sometimes 3 vehicles on their front lawn, obstructing the mutual drive on a regular basis. We have reviewed the correspondence, notices, and compliance efforts by city staff, particularly transportation services, going back well over a decade, which were simply dismissed. Their pattern to not comply with the law, dismiss enforcement from the city, and ignore their neighbors' requests and legal property rights. Over the years, the parking obstruction, the mutual drive at front, and a fence constructed over the easement at back, we have had substantial interference with the enjoyment of our property. Granting this appeal would be rewarding this unacceptable behavior and approving non-compliance with the bylaw. It would set a negative precedent for the city as a whole, which could impact local approvals in the future and is very unfair. Given the pattern over the past decade, this behavior is highly likely to continue as they have shown an inability to respect boundaries, whether that is the bylaw, the mutual drive, the legal easement, and the property survey registered on title. The committee should support the recommendation of city staff, which is to not permit this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for deputant? Seeing none, thank you. The next deputant is Eric Mazing. Do you have 5 minutes? Go ahead. Eric?
I cannot share content.
Go ahead, we can hear you.
How can I share my screen? I was told I could share my screen, sorry.
Go ahead.
Share. I'm sorry, there's a message that says share web browser, no.
Can you speak up, please?
Yes, I can speak up, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I'm trying to share my screen. I was told I could.
Okay, go ahead, you can share your screen.
Thank you. I apologize. Oh, there, I think I see it. Okay. Bear with me. This is. There it is. Can you see my screen?
Yep, go ahead. We can see it, and we can hear you.
So, thank you very much. So I live on 305. We're neighbors to the 307 owners of Rushton. And to follow up on some of the points that were raised, these are some pictures that I'm going to share to show that there is indeed parking availability on Rushton on different times of the month, of the days, and pretty much, as you can see here, I'm going quickly, there is lots of space. This is straight in front of the 307 property, as is this one and this one. That was the first item. The second item will show that here, this is a picture from the city, actually, the city staff, that shows originally there was a garage at the back of the property right here. This would be our garage, and this is the mutual driveway. What is now in place is this fence, which is an 8-foot fence that goes all the way to the top, that prevents access. We cannot maneuver around that space anymore. And the picture is blurry. This is a Google map from the sky, but you can see here the fence in a diagonal that cuts into our mutual drive and basically prevents any maneuverability at that end. The third point is that Unlike what was said by the residents, this situation is not uncommon. This is right from across our house, and there is a mutual drive with parking at the back. And here's another one on the same street, just a few doors down. So this is not exceptional, it's quite standard in this neighborhood. And here is to the point that the behavior of our neighbors for the past 10, 15 years. Some of these pictures go back to 2012. You can see here 3 cars parked. This is parked right in front of the mutual drive. You can see a car at the back. That's my son's car. Cannot exit. Again, parked here, blocking the mutual drive. I apologize. The mutual drive. And basically the pictures here taken on different times of the year and the month really keep showing the same pattern. 2 cars blocking again. This is our car with the fence that you can see in the back. And again and again and again and again. So all of these pictures support the view that there is space in the parking in the street. The owners decided to condemn their garage at the back. That was not our choice, it was their choice. They also decided to put a fence blocking our access to the garage. And we have no reason to believe that they would behave any differently should they be granted any access to front pad parking, which they never had authorization to begin with to install. For this reason, we would also support the city staff recommendation to deny the appeal. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. No questions for staff. Thank you. We're going to take a 10-minute recess because, okay. No. Okay, who do we?
Literally walks out of a meeting with the mayor.
We appreciate it. It's not me. We're waiting for Council Bravo to, you want to text Alejandro? Mhm. Can you queue up Peter Thorning? Okay, just have him stand by so we can get going once we have quorum.
Who was that? There's still someone on there?
Okay, Peter Thorning? You have 5 minutes, go ahead. Peter?
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you very much. My name is Peter Thorning. I reside at 307 Rushton Road. This is an appeal to permit me to park a single vehicle in front of my home, as I have been doing for more than a decade before this trouble arose. This afternoon, I wish to present to you four distinct points and reasons why it is that I should be permitted to park my vehicle there. And then I will address what it is that we heard from my neighbors at 305. Firstly, there is insufficient street parking. I myself reside at that home with my wife and our three children, ages 21, 16, and 14. We have three vehicles, and very much like the neighbors next door at 305, they have parked their vehicles at other persons' residence. They don't use street parking. They're not required to use street parking, and so they probably don't understand the difficulty that I have as a result of all of the many stores and restaurants that are in the neighborhood that bring in lots of people into the neighborhood. My house is about 200 meters or less to St. Clair, and right on Rushton Road, there are two attractions that cause quite a bit of backup and delay on our street, and it is extremely difficult to find parking. In my appeal, you will note that I have provided a number of pictures as to what happens on a daily basis. I have a 83-year-old mother. She can't walk. She requires the assistance of a wheelchair. When I cannot park my vehicle on my front pad, as I have been for more than a decade, it is extremely difficult to have my mother come over to my house. That is, I find something very personally troubling. The parking pad can be seamlessly integrated. As you can see from my appeal, a great number of my neighbors have parking pads, and it shouldn't be any difficulty whatsoever installing one, and I believe city staff has indicated that that's quite possible. Parking is extremely difficult in the winter. Finally, the polling results are not determinative, and I appreciate that this is an appeal. And so the way I have dealt with this polling issue is this. This is not a popularity contest. This is my first city council meeting, and it's quite clear to me that city council is here to do the right thing, not necessarily what it is that that the polling results may appear to be. And I say appear to be because the polling results are incredibly skewed in favor of those who admittedly went around the neighborhood and asked people to oppose. And I have been advised by my neighbors that my next door neighbors went around and politicked and asked people to oppose my request for parking pad and made a number of complaints, which you have heard about this afternoon. It is grossly unfair. I would like to share my screen. I see that I only have a minute, so I would like to do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. You've heard my neighbors complain about a fence, although this is a parking pad issue. They use their backyard for things like basketball. You will see that the fence is not quite high enough to keep their camera out of my backyard. You will see that they themselves are guilty of the very thing that they claim that I was guilty of, which is parking their car in the center. I wish to show you this video, which I took on Monday night.
You have 5
which
seconds.
All right. Well, this shows my regular day. This is all the parking that you can see on my street on my regular return. It is impossible to get parking.
Okay,
And you can see
thank
my
you.
neighbors have
Okay,
parked 2 cars in front of their house.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to move on behalf of Councillor Matlow to approve staff's recommendation.
To approve.
Okay, all those in favor, opposed, carried. I'm going to move on to Deputy Mayor Malik's item at her request. If I can find it. 56, Liberty Village Traffic Action Plan Update. Deputy Mayor Malik.
Thank you very much. I'll be moving this forward. I'll be moving the recommendations in my letter forward to council without recommendation.
Okay, all those in favor, opposed, carried. Thank you. Next item is T 16.28, pay and display parking various streets. There are speakers on this item. Is Peter Finston, are you here? Okay, go ahead. You have up to 5 minutes, hopefully less than that.
Yeah, I'm sure. Good afternoon. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I have a longer presentation which is attached as a communication, so I'm, in the interest of time, I will not do that. I just encourage anyone who wants to know more about the report and its implications can read that. I'm here only to speak to the piece of that report that deals with the 4 streets surrounding Bill Bolton Arena, which is a city-owned facility. And I have a long history going back over 30 years of playing hockey there, bringing my son there to play hockey, to learn to skate, and working with many people in that community. I understand that Councillor Sachs has circulated a motion to exclude the changes to parking around the suggested recommended changes to parking, the implementation of the meters around Bill Bolton Arena, specifically on Olive, Palmerston, Rossmore, and Vermont. And that's a good beginning. I also understand that she's done so because there's a report coming forward to council dealing with the whole issue of on-street parking, and that her request is to have this item deferred until that report comes forward. It's an excellent start, but I would like to add to that, and I think there's an opportunity right now for councilors to fix a problem that has been in place for many, many years. And that problem deals with the turnover as a result of overnight parking regulations. There are, on any given day, at 9:30 in the morning, which is the hour that I'm most familiar with, anywhere from 9 to 11 vacant spots right across the street from the arena, and vacant spots on Olive Avenue, and some on Vermont and Rossmore, Vermont and Palmerston. So what I'm asking is that to fix the problem, at least on a temporary basis, to add to the motion that Councillor Sachs has, a change in the overnight parking permitted times so that they would be consistent and easy for everyone to understand, and that they be moved from not midnight to 7 a.m. or midnight to 10 a.m., but rather that they be standardized and moved from midnight to 8 a.m. This will facilitate the use of the facility, make it more accessible to the users, solve many of the problems, allow parents to bring their children to the arena to play hockey, and for those of us seniors, single people, women, men, children to play hockey without the threat of being ticketed. So I'm hoping that Councillor Sachs will change her motion, or that one of the other members of council would add this, this addition to that, and this motion can be found on page 2 of my earlier longer remarks. Thank you very much. Here to answer questions.
Okay, thank you. Assuming we have no questions for the deputant. Councillor Sachs, there's a motion apparently?
Yes, I have a motion which staff have. So I give my colleagues a brief background. I know people are hanging on my every word here. So a year and a half ago, I did receive a request from some users of the arena to change the permit parking hours, much as Mr. Feinstein has just suggested. There is intense conflict in this area. This is a significant arena, the only one in my ward, and it's located in a residential area with no parking. So unsurprisingly, there are severe parking conflicts between the users of the arena and the neighboring residents. The past councillors have responded to that conflict by setting permit parking hours that on some streets are permit parking only from midnight to 10 in the morning. So people who want to drive to the arena and park before 10 in the morning cannot do so on those streets. So I consulted the neighborhood and seeking their support for the change requested by Mr. Feinstein and others. And it's fair to say that there was a torrent of abuse as a result, which culminated in a large petition and a general request from both the arena and the Residents Association that even though the majority strongly agree that there's lots of problems, they don't want anything done about it. So I'm not doing anything about it right now. My motion is simply to withdraw those 4 streets from the paid parking proposal until after, and I will review it again once we have the parking strategy report, which is due in Q1. So all I'm doing at the moment is proceeding on 1 street, but not on these particular 4, and we'll come back to it after the parking report. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, all those in favor of Councillor Sass's motion? Opposed, carried as amended. All those in favor? Opposed, carried. Thank you. I'm going to move to item 70, or 69, right? 16.69, Forest Hill Public School term restrictions. I think there's a motion from Councillor Matlow. I'll move it on his behalf. Can you post it, please? Are you here? Kent Elson? Good. Billy. Kent Elson?
So just waiting for permission to unmute. I am here, yes.
One moment. Councilor Bravo has a comment before you start.
Just for the deputants who are coming from Ward 9, just so you know, we're at perilously close to losing quorum. So if you are in support of this plan and or you have to just to say it as quick as possible so that we can make sure that we adopt it. Otherwise, we may have to defer it to the next meeting.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Councillor Bravo. I'll reduce my comments from 5 minutes to 1. I just want to say that I strongly support these recommendations in the plan, and I'm particularly excited about the conversion of the Wallace one-way eastbound between Lansdowne and St. Clarence. And I understand that there may be some concerns that could lead to additional detours around the neighborhood. But it's a small price to pay for safer and nicer streets, and acknowledging that 70% of the trips are not by car and 75% of the respondents were very supportive or neutral on the specific change, really hoping that all of these proposals are passed and implemented as soon as possible. My kids go along this street almost every day. They bike along this street from Wallace and St. Clarence to Perth. And less cars will mean more safety. Thank you to city staff for the strong recommendations and to Councillor Bravo for moving the process forward.
Thank you. Seeing no questions, Sandra Ferguson, are you here? Sandra Ferguson. Okay, Sandra, go ahead. Sandra. Sandra, can you hear us? Okay, we'll go to Rolf then. Rolf Capriotti? Okay, go ahead.
Basically, I'm here for losing the parking in front of my house on Hallam Street. With the bike lanes on the south side, they plan to remove all the bike lanes. We've been there almost 68 years. We have handicaps, some of us in that house. And how are people going to service their houses or do anything else when this parking is gone? And there's one lane going up, one lane going down. This street used to hold TTC streetcars. Davenport used to hold and Lappin. We already have a bike lane on Hallam. It was the first bike lanes in Toronto that Councillor Maxwell introduced on Lappin and Hallam. And there's been no issues. And I've talked to a lot of the experienced bike riders. They have no issues. There are a few, like the gentleman there, who's pushing it, his children. I've been there almost 70 years, and there's no problems with people getting hit. There are police there every day stopping traffic for rolling on the streets. We can't lose our parking, because how are our homes going to be serviced? My mother was 102 almost when she died 2 years ago. And we had a hard time taking her out, taking her in, and everything else. And there's a lot of seniors there that have been long-time residents. How are we going to handle this? You just think about just putting a bike lane in, and that's it. Removing parking. You can't really do that like that. And we had a tax increase this year. Are we second-class citizens now that we don't get all the services? I'm already not getting all the services. It's insane. You should think about that, because you can put a bike lane on the curb. It's smaller, and I read that, we're gonna tighten the lanes. Well, with parking, you're tightening the lanes and you're still ensuring safety of the cyclists. You can do that because it used to run streetcars from the 1930s to the 50s. The tracks are still buried there. I know, because I've been there a long time. So this thing about bike lanes, there's already bike lanes there and there's no issues from people. Only a few of the new residents are coming in worried about their children. Well, we were children. We grew up there. We went to school there. We never had any problems. And I don't know. too many things are happening right now in there. I really don't know what to say. Because a lot of people are angry and they're going to be civil disobedient. Parking is one of the contentious issues in the city that people have a pecking order to, and they don't like you parking near their place or anything else, and vehicles get damaged, and this happens and that happens, and there's a lot of parking wars out there. It's getting worse and worse. And now that all the homes are being converted to 4 stories and 6 apartments, 8 apartments, the people down the street, every apartment, they have a car or 2 cars. And people are going to expect to park. What are you going to have, an empty city, a donut? You know, I can understand a lot of cars, but blocking all the streets, doing this, doing that, that's what's causing the congestion. Everybody wants their own little private Idaho. You can't have that. It's a city for everybody. You know, for drivers, for cyclists, yes, let's make it safe. But let's be, you know, discreet about it. That's all I can say. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Caprari.
Thank you.
Any questions for the applicant? Seeing
Okay.
none. Thank you. Daniel Milford Warren? No? No. Zoe Crocker? 5 minutes?
It's Zoe Craker, and I'll be very brief. Thank you so much to the committee for this opportunity. I'm here to support the closure of a portion of Croatia Street to motor vehicles between Brock Avenue and the new Collegiate Avenue. This is a decision of great importance in safety and well-being for Wallace Emerson and the Bloordale neighborhood. And I can't think actually of a better putting Vision Zero into better action than actually following through with this. I really want to echo the points of my neighbors. You're going to hear them in a couple seconds. This is an unsafe intersection and stretch of road. Croatia is used to funnel mall traffic to the residential street of Brock Avenue. No other residential street in Toronto has mall traffic directed to it. You could look at Yorkdale, Guard Square, Cloverdale Mall. For me, most importantly, Croatia Street cuts right through between a new high school for 900 students, Bloor Collegiate Institute, and their sports field that they're going to use every single day. I would like to note that I've submitted to a letter to the committee reiterating the strong support for this closure. It has 54 signatures from Brock Avenue residents, and attached to it are images of 5 accidents that occurred at Brock and Croatia within a 12-month period. I'd also like to submit an additional pledge to the clerk, which was courtesy of my 15-year-old neighbor who's at Bloor Collegiate Institute and who had her class sign it because she feels this is very, very important. I've witnessed firsthand the dangers of this intersection for 20 years. I've been actively advocating for closure and traffic measures. Unfortunately, my mother was hit and severely injured at Brock and Croatia in July 2023. She'll speak to in a moment. This unsafe intersection has affected our lives. I want to emphasize this closure is possible with no impact to drivers given the new Collegiate Street being built. This closure has a similar precedent on the other side of Dufferin Mall, with the Dufferin Park Avenue being closed to stop traffic going to St. Mary's High School. The consultation of the neighborhood plan indicated 63% of respondents were supportive of this closure to close the segment of Croatia. It's also an opportunity, I think, for a new and inclusive public space in an area with some of the lowest local parkland provisions. I urge you to vote in favor of closing Croatia. I urge you also to, if possible, move away from the concept of in principle and just have support of the concept, and to change, to have the change enacted upon the commissioning of Collegiate Road. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Next up is Nancy Croker. Okay, go ahead. You have 5 minutes.
It on?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, I'll be equally brief. I'm the mother of Zoe Craker. I have also witnessed for 20 years the problems with that stop sign, and I've been worried for 20 years. I wasn't worried on July 1st, 2023, as I went to walk Zoe's dog, and I was hit by a car which didn't stop at the stop sign, and I was severely injured. I'm still dealing with my issues. I'm not here for your sympathy. I'm here to express my support for the closure. I'm very, very concerned about pedestrians and students, well, people of all ages, but with the high school going in, 900 more students in the area. It's just a real danger and it's a concern. And I do hope that, that you'll consider very, very seriously the closure. You know, I'm sort of in the later years of my life, but you know, there are just so many young children, all these teenagers, and they don't pay attention, you know, they're living their lives, they're thinking about, you know, the next class or what they're doing after school. And I really feel that we just have to take care of them. And thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you for coming in today. Melanie Zanker? Melanie? Go ahead, Melanie. Go ahead, you have 5 minutes. You're on mute. There we
Okay,
go.
there we go. Hi. Hi there. Thank you for.
We can hear you. We
can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. First, I'd like to say that I have full support of the Wallace-Emerson Neighborhood Street Plan. In particular, the recommendation to close the intersection at Croatia Street and Brock Avenue. I've been living on Brock Avenue since 2007, and I'm a parent of 2 children, one of whom will attend the new high school next year. And I'm deeply concerned about the safety risk posed by keeping Croatia Street open between Brock Avenue and Collegiate Avenue. This portion of the street separates the school from its sports field, and it's frequently used by traffic heading to Walmart and Dufferin Mall, one of the busiest malls in the city. Brock Avenue and Croatia not only handle local cars, but attract a high volume of traffic from across the street. These streets effectively serve a driveway to the mall, funneling both regular and truck traffic, including 53-foot semi-trailers, right through our residential neighborhood. The situation will only worsen as over 3,000 residents currently will be residing at the construction zone currently under construction at Bloor, and more traffic will be in that area. Students will need to cross the busy street section regularly from gym classes and other activities. They are also likely to visit the mall during lunch breaks. Given the reckless behavior of some drivers, such as speeding, rolling stops, general impatience, it feels inevitable that an accident will occur. In fact, we already have seen serious accidents at this intersection, and that includes Nancy. These streets are not appropriate for heavy mall and truck traffic, especially in a residential area. It's unsafe, not only for the students, but also for neighbors, pedestrians, the elderly, and cyclists. I'm concerned for my child's safety and the safety of all community members. Instead of asking whether an accident will happen, we should be asking when it will happen and how severe will it be. It's only a matter of time before someone is seriously injured or worse. Will it be my child? A neighbor? By then, it will be too late to prevent the tragedy. I urge you to approve the motion to close Croatia Street between Brock and Collegiate Avenue for the safety of our children and community. And I'm getting a little bit emotional because I don't know if Zoe knows this, but when her mother was hit by a car, there was so much blood on the street that we didn't want her to come home to see it. And her neighbor and a couple of other neighbors came and cleaned it up. It was pretty intense to see that would happen right outside of our doors. And I don't want that to happen to anybody else. And I just feel like we have to do something about it. And I think closing Croatia, it's a thing to do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Allison Stewart, Cycle Toronto, are you here? Online. Okay.
Hello, Councillor Chair Moyes, I am here. I am dialing in. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Well, thank you. By way of introduction, my name is Allison Stewart, and I'm the Director of Advocacy and Public Policy for Cycle Toronto. I'm deputing today because Cycle Toronto enthusiastically supports the various road safety and traffic management changes being recommended to improve the walkability, bikeability, and livability for the Wallace-Emerson neighborhood. Improving safe connections and improving the safety of people who live in the area by making the pedestrian and cycling realm more comfortable and safe by reducing the speed of vehicular traffic is critical towards easing congestion and achieving Toronto's Transform TO goal of moving 75% of all trips under 5 kilometers by active and sustainable modes of transportation. And this will only be achieved by providing people with transportation options and connecting people to transit and the existing cycling network. And increasing road safety is something that all Torontonians want, and certainly listening to many of the deputants before me, this is certainly the case with the Wallace-Emerson neighborhood. And it's worth mentioning that this was driven by community-led advocacy to improve the safety and mobility in the area. And it led to the creation of the Wallace-Emerson Traffic Management Committee, and I gather a lively Facebook group. Our executive director, Michael Longfield, is also a resident in the community and an active cyclist and pedestrian and transit user. It's also worth noting, what is also in the report, is the fact that more than 50% of people who live in the Wallace-Emerson neighborhood don't own a car. So this is a great move. If this were the case for all Torontonians, we would have much less of a congestion issue to deal with. So that being said, Cycle Toronto urges you to unanimously support this project and give a strong message of support for all of the initiatives proposed, including the neighborhood cycling initiatives outlined by the staff. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Allison. Next person, Alexander Fernandez. Are you here? Okay, Alexander, go ahead. Alexander? Okay. Let's go to Benjamin Hoff. Benjamin Hoff, are you here?
Benjamin's online.
Benjamin?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can now. Go ahead, Benjamin. 5 minutes.
Hi, my apologies. Sorry, it wouldn't let me unmute. My name is Benjamin Hoff. I'm a resident of Brock Avenue, and I'm very supportive of staff recommendations to improve pedestrian and bike safety in our neighborhood throughout Wallace-Emerson. These are really important recommendations that will be welcomed by the many members of our community, including my family, who heavily rely on walking and biking. In particular, I'm supportive of the proposed closure of the segment of Croatia. I echo many of the points made by many of my neighbors and local residents who have brought their different perspectives on this topic, including the many that signed the letter. Our community is unfortunately a driveway to Walmart and the Dufferin Mall. This is a unique condition. It doesn't happen anywhere else in the city around shopping malls. And it's not just a bit of cut through traffic. With right turn restrictions at Dufferin and Bloor, it means that all eastbound traffic on Bloor Street heading to the mall funnels through our neighborhood. All of it. As the mall is located at the corner of Bloor and Dufferin, that means a lot of traffic. Everyone coming from the west is driving through our community.
Yes.
On the local neighborhood streets. And it's not just Bloor Street traffic. It's traffic from other parts, from College as well, cutting through. And other parts, in part due to restrictions on traffic on the other side of Dufferin Street, which don't experience any of the cut-through traffic to the mall. And it's not just cars, it's trucks, semis, 53-foot trailers are forced through our neighborhood, through our local street to get to the mall. And we're just simply put tired of being a driveway to the Dufferin Mall. But it's not just a traffic concern. It's a real road safety issue. I've lived near this intersection of Croatia and Brock Avenue for many years and experienced on a daily basis the many issues. I have been hit by drivers failing to look at me in front of them, including with my son in a stroller years ago. And there have been many times where I've been nearly hit by drivers who can't seem to just look out for pedestrians at this intersection. Speaking with Transportation Services staff member, he was observing and was astounded at how poorly drivers were behaving at this intersection. He said that he's never in his life experienced or in his professional life seen that kind of misbehavior at a neighborhood intersection. And I expect that's largely due to this being a cut through to the mall. The great news is we can have it all. There's no downside to the closure of Croatia Street. It'll give continued pedestrian and bike access to the mall and to the overall street network. It'll be much safer conditions for Bloor Collegiate students going back and forth to their playing field. It will help implement Vision Zero and improve safety in what is a dangerous intersection. The repurposed street can serve as a new public open space in a neighborhood that is parkland deficient. And finally, it will provide continued and convenient mall access for drivers using the new Collegiate Street. So it's a win-win-win all around, and I urge you to support the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Daniel Milford Warren. Are you here? 5 minutes or less? Go ahead.
How about now? Hi. Thank you, committee, for your service and for hearing me today. I was here this morning and I had to run and come back again. My name is Daniel Milford Warren. I'm a father of 4. This is half the gang. I've lived in the neighborhood for 12 years. I live on Emerson Avenue, 20 Emerson Avenue. Councillor Bravo, thank you. And the neighborhood is under intense development pressure right now. There's a huge condominium development going up at Dufferin and Bloor. There's another huge one going up at the Galleria. My oldest son's not here, he's 10. He's no longer eligible for the school bus, so he walks and bikes to school by himself. And that's terrifying for me. And it's busy and getting busier. So all these condo dwellers, they're gonna have cars. The roads are literally at their saturation point. We need to make it safer for people to get around by other means. I biked here from home. I couldn't have got here any other way. Maybe transit, I guess, but to get back here in time, you know, biking is still, well, anyway, it's my preferred method to get around, and we need alternatives. So this is a great plan. It's gonna make the neighborhood safer for myself and my family. I think that the consultation has been broad. It's a well thought out plan, and it should be implemented without delay in its entirety. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Carol Ann Friend, are you here? Carol Ann Frank? Go ahead. You have 5 minutes. We see you. And you're on mute.
There we go. Thank you. Sorry about that. My name is Carol Ann Friend. I live on Brock Avenue, and I am here today to support the Wallace Emerson Neighborhood Streets Plan, especially the recommendation to close the intersection at Brock and Croatia. I echo my neighbor's statements of support and concerns. I have lived near the corner of this intersection for almost 8 years. This section of Brock Avenue, south of Bloor Street, is used as a driveway to the Dufferin Mall, as well as a shortcut for vehicles avoiding traffic at Dufferin and Bloor. There's a constant mix of traffic moving through this intersection, including large trucks that often cannot make the turn at the intersection without mounting the sidewalk. It's obviously a huge safety concern. In fact, I witnessed an example of a situation this morning where a large tractor trailer trying to turn north onto Brock from Croatia blocked the sidewalk for a period, or the crosswalk for a period of time, while multiple cars, as well as a cyclist, tried to negotiate their way around it. So this is a constant situation that we see. Many cyclists and pedestrians also cross through this intersection. The result is a mix of this mix of traffic is absolute chaos, with vehicles often blocking the intersection, ignoring the stop signs, doing rolling stops, confusion about who has the right of way, as well as drivers who become impatient, honk, yell at others, and speed along Croatia. Several collisions have already occurred in this intersection, and people have been severely injured, as you have heard about. This already dangerous situation will become worse once Bloor Collegiate opens, and high school students need to cross this intersection to access their only sports field. I'm requesting that the Community Council fully support the recommendation to close this intersection as soon as possible to ensure the safety of all road users, as well as to reduce the noise and pollution along this section of a residential street. Precedent to limit traffic cutting through a residential neighborhood already exists east of Dufferin in the Dufferin Grove neighborhood, and we request that the same consideration is made to our neighborhood. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on this matter today.
Thank you. Sandra Ferguson, are you here with us still? Yeah. Sandra?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead. You have 5 minutes.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. I'm here today to voice my strong support to close Croatia Street at Brock Avenue to motor vehicle traffic, as well as the other measures proposed under the Wallace Emerson Neighborhood Streets Plan. Councillor Bravo and Community Council members, this is a singular and urgent opportunity to bring a positive change to a neighborhood that frankly can sometimes feel a bit overlooked. Today, you've heard my neighbors and others share experiences and perspectives about this chaotic and dangerous intersection and stretch of road, including, unfortunately, accounts of serious injury and fears about future harms. And I want you to know that I agree with and support these comments. For my part today, I simply wanted to paint a picture for you of the Torontonians who would be positively affected by this change. I've lived in the neighborhood for more than 20 years. I've raised my family here. And Croatia, as well as Brock between Bloor and College, is a heavily used pedestrian route, and of course Brock is an official bike route. If you stopped any given pedestrian or cyclists traveling along this short stretch of road, it would often be somebody heading to or from work, but it could just as easily be a dad walking his kids to one of the 2 elementary schools on this stretch or their associated daycares, a youth walking to the Catholic high school on the other side of Dufferin, someone coming to practice or play soccer at the BCI playing field currently operated by Sporting Football Club. It could be a churchgoer or a family heading to the subway after buying their weekly groceries. This is just in this one small stretch. In the months and years ahead, as you've heard, these folks will be joined by students attending the new BCI right at the corner of Brock and Croatia. Thousands of new neighbors traveling to and from their apartments in the new tower development at Dufferin and Bloor, as well as people using the services of the new community hub, and by young kids and families enjoying the desperately needed new park on Croatia. So, councillors, closing Croatia at Brock is an exciting chance to implement a positive change to the health and well-being of thousands of Torontonians and asserting and recommitting to the residential and community nature of this neighborhood by removing this danger point. I urge you to support a positive vision for Croatia and Brock and to implement this change. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Alexander Fernandez, you here? Alexander? Alexander, can you unmute yourself? You see him? Okay, going once, going twice. Alexander? Okay, thank you. Any other speakers on this item? Seeing none, Councilor Bravo?
Thank you. Do we have a 1 minute to ask questions of staff, or should I? Okay, thank you. I will then. They've been sitting here all day and have worked so hard on this. I understand, we heard a lot about Croatia Street, and I will be moving a motion about that. But in terms of the questions we've received, and you may have as well, about concerns that making a section of Wallace one way would have an impact on congestion and make it more difficult for vehicles to get out of the neighborhood. Can you speak to how the change on Wallace will help improve traffic safety?
Yep, we can say that the change on Wallace is intended to cut down through traffic through the neighborhood, so the overall volume of vehicles. We acknowledge that it means some local trips will have to be rerouted, but the net impact would be less cars overall in the neighborhood. So we believe it will help manage the volume that has been a concern.
And then in terms of the closure of Croatia Street, what we're talking about here is really a question of timing, correct?
Correct. This report is a really important step to put on the record that the community and this council are in support of the closure. The reason that it was in principle with a later step to come is simply because of the matter of timing. And our colleague who operationalizes street closures typically requires there to be a set time, and because we don't know the commissioning date, that's why it was set out like that. But we're really excited to see this support documented today.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
So I have a motion, and while it's displayed, it just essentially changes the recommendation in relation to the closure of Croatia Street to remove the words "in principle." I think you just heard from staff that there was a caution in relation to other processes that are underway, but it has caused a lot of anxiety in a community that has already been so harmed by as you heard, and some very moving. I think the members of this committee and the staff here are moved to hear about not only of course, the injury of Nancy Craker and the harm it's did to her family, but just the way the community came together to clean that street of blood so that she wouldn't see it. It just shows the amount of love that is on Brock and the surrounding streets. And this is why we're doing this work. And hearing from a father who had to bring his kids, thank you for coming back. This is why we're doing this. We're preventing harm. I want to say that I heard about the need for this plan before the election campaign and before I got elected. We have seen so much work by local residents talking to each other to bring this forward. And it has been one of the best experiences for me of being a counselor. I want to thank the transportation staff for so much here. There has been so much work done. The way that we have designed this going forward to make it a neighborhood streets plan, it encompasses everything. It's not looking at one speed bump here, one speed change, one stop sign, one bike lane. It's about the entire neighborhood. And the way that the consultations are carried out in person, without PowerPoint presentation, people able to talk to each other, tactile, using sticky notes, people being able to have conversations about their different points of view is an example, I think, for every division in this city. So I want to thank you very much for all your excellent work. What we have before this is a plan that will create some tensions because change is difficult, and I acknowledge that. I acknowledge that some people will see their street different. It is the neighborhood that we're building for the children that showed up here today. In 30 years, I won't be here. I need to do things today that are for people that will be here in 30 and 50 years, and I think we all agree on that in this committee, and it is a policy of council. So thank you to all the residents who have hung in there all day. Thank you for participating in such great number. Thank you for the overwhelming support that this plan has received throughout the process. What you have before you is a response to concerns that were raised in community. It is a response to the broad consultation that engaged people across different languages, histories in the ward, in the community. Whether you're living in an apartment, a renter, own a home, ride a bike, drive your car, or take transit or walk to school, everybody participated. And so I think that we have done something here that means that there's real consent and real support for what's before us. And with that, I'd like to move my my motion.
Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item as amended. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And I move that bills 894 to 916 and 924 to 943 and 946 prepared for the September 25th, 2024 meeting 16 of the Toronto and East York Community Council be declared as bylaws and passed subject to section 226.9 of the City of Toronto Act of 2006. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. I move that confirmatory bills to confirm the legislative proceedings of the Toronto and East York Community Council acting under delegated authority at meeting 16 on September 25th, 2024, be declared as bylaws and passed subject to section 226.9 of the City of Toronto Act 2006. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you so much, everyone, for hanging in there. And yeah, we did it. Barely. Have a good evening, everybody. Thank you, Osman.